Hey everyone, this is Kenny Coins from Marathon Money, and I'm here with Giovanni talking about money laundering, anti-money laundering. So Giovanni, tell me how you got into that space.
Well, it's a pretty interesting question. I'm from Europe, Luxembourg, Europe, not the US.
Yeah.
Uh, I was a teacher by the time I was in Italy, and I moved to Luxembourg due to personal circumstances. And well, by the time I got there, it was a pretty whole new challenge. New country, new culture, new language, and around that time, Putin decided to invade Ukraine, and I needed to retrain myself, and I decided to go back to school and get into anti-money laundering. Well, by the time Putin invaded Ukraine, uh, foreign held assets by Russian investors got frozen until further notice, and was an interesting field to get into. And well, piqued my interest, and looking back, I'm glad I made the right decision.
What about money laundering that is like money laundering is very it seems like nowadays everybody's trying to do it through crypto. Is that something you learned about how that's being done?
Well, that's a good question. Even though with my relatively short time in the field, I feel like a sort of a pioneer, as we are witnessing a significant shift from cash to digital currency,
Yeah.
particularly cryptocurrencies. This evolution makes my work even more engaging. Regulatory authorities are actively trying to manage the challenges of overseeing cryptocurrencies, such as the decentralized nature, anonymity, and the speed within technology evolves. I think it's a pretty challenging thing to regulate due to its intrinsic nature and decentralized uh, thing. Pretty much it's pretty much tough to regulate. Let's say
Cryptocurrency with money laundering is pretty tough to regulate. Is that what you're saying?
yes, it is. It definitely is.
Is that
Uh,
because a lot of people is untraceable, or is because of the keys? What makes it really hard to regulate?
it may the decentralized nature makes it almost impossible to not impossible to regulate. As far as I am concerned, you can regulate like taxing, for example. There is a discussion and an exchange going on in Europe about taxing cryptocurrency, but you cannot tax, for example, the cryptocurrency. You can tax the exchange, the act of buying cryptocurrency, but you
Okay,
cannot tax uh,
the
an
cryptocurrency
anonymous,
is.
yeah,
Oh,
you cannot tax an anonymous asset. So it is possible to regulate, but only up to a point.
so is the European government worried about taxing the cryptocurrency itself or taxing on buying and selling?
You, they are trying to tax as far as they can get
Okay.
this kind of assets, but they cannot tax the cryptocurrency itself. You can tax, for example, the exchange on a trading platform, for example, but you're gonna tax the euro or the dollars or whatever the currency is.
Yeah.
In the exchange, you cannot tax the crypto itself. It is
So is it's how popular is Bitcoin in Europe? Is it as popular in the US as in Europe?
well, I can say it's gaining popularity definitely, but it depends. Well, we are 27 something member states with multiple culture, multiple multiple mentality, multiple languages. There are, from my modest point of view, there are cultural differences. Countries like Italy, for example, where I'm from, or Germany for that matter, they are still clinging to the cash uh, kind of payment, but it is definitely it is gaining popularity. Yes, absolutely. In some
Oh,
countries
that's
more
good.
than others.
So what do you think the next step would be in like cryptocurrency and managing like money laundering to try to, because now it's, I feel like cryptocurrency is like embedded in the world, and you're probably going to see more people that are going to be doing more wrong things with it, like every currency, even with the US dollar, the euros. You got people is always trying to do something um, behind the government's back, or just being bad. How do you think money laundering is going to be the biggest problem in cryptocurrency? Because they use cryptocurrency to hide everything. It's a lot harder to find them when they're in the crypto world in that digital space.
Well, there are some metrics uh, in the money laundering profession. For example, if you're an investor, we're trying to start, for example, an, a hedge fund in Luxembourg, which is
Yeah.
crypto based. There is still regulation missing on that point. So they're basically for the time being they're applying basic AML concepts such as who is the investor, where is he coming from, is the jurisdiction a high risk one, uh, is it linked to Russian entities or Iran or North Korea. So there are some metrics that are being applied for the time being, and new or more advanced vetting processes are still being developed. But for the moment, we are still using metrics and methods typical of a cash intense business.
So you feel like you guys are still a little bit behind on what?
We are definitely behind because of the crypto assets are relatively new thing. So we are working on it. We are doing some progresses, but the entity itself is not easy to cope with, unfortunately. But well, I see some progress already coming out.
So with countries like Venezuela, countries like Russia, countries like, Brazil, Colombia, they're all trying to mass a ton of Bitcoin to help their countries grow. And Argentina's another country that they're also doing really well. They got themselves out of a really bad position with their new president. Um, they're trying to embed themselves in cryptocurrency. Do you feel like with with that will come more problems for you guys, or like for example with the Ukraine situation, do you feel like people will try to be okay, you know, there's less infrastructure, there's less structure. Do you think there's going to be a flood in of criminals trying to use money laundering and crypto to basically embed themselves and hide? And how long do you think the European government, the US government, or the world will take to finally catch up? Because you said like we still run on these cash type laws and we still haven't caught up. So do you think we're like 5 years away, 10 years away? Or like how long do you think we're far away from that?
Well, first of all, I don't believe as complicated and complex things might be to regulate crypto assets doesn't mean that it's impossible. Far from it. I first of all, I don't believe that mm, governments like those of Brazil, Venezuela, will use crypto asset to replace fiat currencies. Uh, First of all, well, cryptocurrencies are limited. It is like 20 something millions uh, mining
Supply.
mining supply, yes.
Yeah.
And so far, the authorities have not recorded relevant criminal activities related to crypto. Um, we use metrics typical of back in the days, typical metrics for laundering money from cash-intense businesses because that's the way criminals still
Operate.
still
That's still operate.
criminals still use cash for for doing criminal activities. Uh,
Okay.
with crypto wallets are still to some degree traceable because what is on the internet is forever. Cash will never leave a trace behind. Cash is cash. You can. It's more complicated actually to trace cash than crypto. So I'm not concerned about that because criminals like ex Escobar did. So today criminals
Yeah.
and
No, it makes what you're saying makes perfect sense. Like you're right, cash leaves no trace, and it's a lot harder to find, and it's a lot easier to mix in with the cash that was earned correctly. No, what you say makes perfect sense. So we're like in the world of money laundering, what type of business is more likely you tend to see that has the potential to have money laundering, like in
well,
Europe?
well, this is something we all learn at the university, and it also, on one hand, depends a lot on the jurisdictions. For example, in Italy, I don't know in the US, I'm curious to know about it. You can use cash up to 1,000 euros. Beyond that, you're forced to use wire transfer or credit card payments. Countries like Germany, it's, well, everyone knows it is a money laundering paradise because you can use up to 10,000 euros. You can buy, you
It's
can
the
buy
same thing here. It's a
it's,
10,000. It's up $9,900 here. So it's
well,
the same thing here.
it's a pretty high amount. You can buy a car, you can buy a lot of things with that amount. And some businesses are more risky than others. For example, casinos, gambling business, laundry. Well, I mean, there's the word itself, money laundering, dates back to Al Capone in Chicago, where they used to launder business through dry cleaners or laundry.
Yeah.
So
So
some
yeah. So
some business
it's almost the same as the U.S.
yeah, some type of business are riskier than others. For example, like I said, casinos, brothels. Some countries brothels are legal, or well, unfortunately, uh, cannabis or those kind of drugs are being legalized, and through, for example, vendors machine. That's another risky kind of business. So there are some factors at play, but business like gambling, casinos, even car dealers are pretty much risky. So the metric is how high is the cash? Is it a cash intense business or is not? So cash is the issue.
Yeah.
Cash cash
So
makes
for
our life as a money laundering officers more complicated than crypto assets. Actually, crypto assets
makes
make
your
our
life it's a little
life
bit easier.
makes our life much more
Yeah,
much.
no, I see it because like if your business is cash based, it's easy to mix in the bad money with the good, and it's almost untraceable at that point. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
So like with so many different countries, so many different languages, and each country has their own government. In Europe, like how's that? So every country has their own regulations, and you guys got to figure out the rules for that country, and that must also like makes it even tougher.
Well, we have the European Parliament that tries to put things
Unite,
together
yeah,
in regulated. We are called something called the European directives on money laundering, which are passed by the European Parliament, and then after that, the countries have to enforce. Member states are mandated to adopt those directives. But um, let's say on a global point of view, regulations are pretty similar because a criminal is a criminal anywhere, and
Yeah,
we are
that's true.
regulations are are adopted on a more or less global kind of basis. There's something called Financial Task Force, International Financial Task Force of the United Nations, which tries to convince government from everywhere around the world to adopt certain metrics, certain regulations to make fighting criminal activities easier for everyone.
Yeah. Wow. Like, so now in my mind, this will be kind of my last question. In my mind, I thought crypto was going to be a lot easier for them, but it seems like it makes your guys' jobs a lot easier. And then the cash makes it harder for you guys. So we have a world that's really trying to transfer over to digital. Um, and I know you said before the chances that we go from from fiat to crypto is very slim. But do you see that happening in our lifetime? Like in the next 30, 40 years where it might happen? We might finally pull the trigger and just become a digital, most of the world is digital currency.
Well, the European Central Bank, and I'm pretty much sure I was uh, reading and doing some homework. Let's say
Yeah.
the Federal Reserve are working on a digital-based kind of currency. Um, I I do see the role of cash getting. Let's say I don't think cash will be replaced completely, but the digital kind of currency uh, will
We'll have a
be,
we'll have a bigger footprint.
yeah, it is already a reality. They're being
Yes.
developed, but um, digital currency are here to stay. Whether centralized currency or decentralized currency, well, will be part of our day-to-day life. Absolutely, it is already a reality, and it's here to stay.
All right. Man, that's all we have time today. I appreciate Giovanni coming up. I hope you enjoy Italy while you're out there. This is Marathon Money Plus, and peace.
Thank you very much.